Yes, it's great that you are here. You saw it on the screen. A really bad scratch damage here on the BMW E. Let's see how much of this we can still save. Where do we still have paint that we can actually polish? Are we at the point in some areas where we can only go to the painter? We will try to minimize this together a bit. We will use a small polishing machine. I believe 75mm should cover the area quite well. So here, you don't need a mini cordless polishing machine, but something a bit larger. However, 125mm should actually be almost too big. 75mm. Let's use the maximum cut, because if we take another look at it directly in the video, it's really quite severe. Let's see how much we can save. I'll give you all the tips and tricks for spot repair on scratch damage. Let's get started. And I actually wanted to make a video for you today on the topic of polishing doors. So how do I divide all the areas? Which polishing machine goes where? And then I saw this severe scratch damage down here and I thought, okay, let's make another separate video about it because this is really bad. So here you see U-sand again. These are the normal scratches that we will also remove additionally in the video. But let's take a look together at what has been damaged here and see how much we can still save. And here, I want to reiterate how you can find out whether polishing is still worth it or if it's a lost cause. I want to show you that directly now, as the question is on the table. I think this can also be polished away quite well. But up here, I'll show you a little trick. So, just take a bit of water and spray it on the surface. Here we can now see the scratch area beautifully in the light. And now we will just spray a little water on it. And now let's see how much we can still discover through the water film. And there we can see that the scratched area has significantly minimized. It's a good reference point to simply see how much we can still get out. However, we still see some very severe spots. 2001. That's already a significant reduction. So, this is a good way to find out if we might still have a chance. If the scratches or the scratch are completely visible through the water film, meaning you can see the white of the primer shining through, then the chance of being able to polish anything is quite low, because there isn't enough paint left available. But we can see it here under the water film. There are still a few individual scratches, some of which are very deep, now only visible. And as soon as the water runs off, the image will also become clearer again. So the scratches become more visible again. It might be that we can get about 80 to 90% out, but I doubt we can get 100% out because they are already too deep. And now we are going to go over it with a machine. And we will just use an absolute low-budget machine. But that doesn't mean that the performance is insufficient. Let's include the one over there, and here the scratch gets really deep. Here we have these very deep issues, so here it's more severe, and here it's already a disaster. Let's take a look at this. And we'll start with the first round here, which is foam and the heavy cut pad from the SCVIZZer Thermo Trapez detailing line, along with the SONAX UltimateCut 6+. So, we won't be using gentle products here. That should be clear. We have already worked on the other paint spots, which is why I chose this combo here. I am now starting at a slow speed and gradually increasing it to better distribute the polish in the pad. And it gradually builds up in temperature, and no polish is flying around. It also depends on what you are using. So, I always give you a few tips here in the voiceover, but you will also know this from other instructional videos. That's why I keep the entire video really extremely compact. I have now edited it down to just about 18 minutes for you, but I believe it was originally around 36 or 37 minutes in total. I just wanted to quickly bundle the compact information into the video for you. Nevertheless, it has turned out to be a bit longer. Here, go over it nicely, making several passes, maybe 2 or 3 cross passes, and always pay attention to the temperature because the area is very small. So really be careful there, and also feel it a bit. But you build up experience over time, like how long you can go over this. And if you notice that the pad becomes extremely soft, then definitely stop. But the pad has handled this well. Now let's take a look at the result after the first round with polish and the strongest foam pad here in the series. Here I really stopped for a moment, because the area is very small. The temperature is already quite good with heat in it, but it's not yet at a point where we need to talk about a critical temperature state. So let's go over it with the cloth here. And then in a case like this, which I would call a spot issue in an absolute worst case scenario, we first take a look at the interim status. As mentioned, there are definitely some light holograms present, which is logical, but the scratches have significantly reduced. However, they are by no means gone. Here, we have a really bright shine. Here, many areas are starting to show. Can we take the tape off, and then we can also see the difference compared to over there. So it has definitely improved, but I don't think that satisfies you or me yet. Therefore, you have the following options. Either you do another round and see if it can be minimized further, or switch to microfiber. but we will do another round with foam. And that is a very, very important point. When you approach this slowly, not immediately going for the 10-15 cross pattern, but really taking it slow with 2 or 3 cross patterns, observing how it develops. Is anything moving at all? Is anything coming off? Does the scratch remain completely ignored? It always depends on the situation. This is an example for me. For you, it might be a thick, large scratch from a key or something else, or just a single section. So just gradually work your way in, really check in between, polish out, and that's why I'm sharing these tips with you. Also, in terms of strength, I'm already going to a high level and managing it completely through the pressure on the paint surface. And you can see here, my index finger is resting on top of the head of the machine. This means I can't really apply maximum pressure like this. But you can easily control the amount here, and you can also see that even if you come into contact with the tape, it will just fold upwards without completely tearing apart. Here is also the important note that the tape is only used here for the 50-50 comparison. If I'm doing this here for myself, or if you have something like this at home, you obviously don't need to create a masking area like this. It's also important to protect the edges in the surrounding area, but there were actually no problems here. 2001.
Oh, that looks really good already. So we have minimized a really large area here. I'll take it out of the tripod now because then it will be even more visible. I think we can see it really well here. So we still have a very, very deep spot. It also shines really bright white. So we might be done here. You can also check again with your fingernail. Here is a really deep spot. And this is where we transition to the untreated area. And this is quite a drastic transition here in 2001, despite the sanding marks that are still present. But I believe there is a very, very clear difference. It's a bit difficult to focus here, but otherwise, it's clearly visible. Here we still have the really deep spots, and we can just take a look with a fingernail. So you can feel it. When your fingernail gets caught, that's always the problem. So exactly here, where is it? This point, and here, this is really a spot where we go, click, click, click. And we will now also work on this small section here at the top with a microfiber pad. But always remember, you don't have an unlimited amount of paint available, but I believe there is already a noticeable improvement when we look at the condition on the other side at the top. Here we have these slight stone chips and this very deep scratch right here. Well, that's just inevitable after so many years. I am now only working on this area that I am marking here. I won't even go over the other parts down here because we don't need to unnecessarily remove or smooth out paint here, but rather we want to focus only on these scratches. Therefore, you don't need to make many passes as you build up a lot of heat and now abrasion. So really approach this very carefully. Yes, and now the time has come. It starts with the microfiber pad. This one is from chemicalworkz, 75mm, and again here with the UltimateCut from SONAX. This is really a very, very sharp ammunition or weapon combo that I am using on this surface. It's really quite intense that the rubbing effect is extremely high, and you should approach it gently in terms of speed, gradually increasing it. You might also want to place a light underneath to clearly see whether the scratch is actually getting less, or if there's any movement during the polishing process, and then really go at it gently. So we definitely have sanding marks in there again, obviously. But it's also about this. Look. It has become noticeably smaller again, because we can also measure. I'll go back here to the area that hasn't been polished yet. And there we have 109, 106, 110, 117, 101. Here we were already a bit on the point, 109th. If we now go to the area where we have gone directly, over with the microfiber, we are already at 98, so it's getting really tight here at some point. 94, 94, 94, 104. Up here, there is a bit more at 109, 98, yes, exactly here. Where we have gone over it again, at 99, it will start to get tight. 95. So here I would go down to a maximum of 90. We will do a second round, but I will stop at 90 because I don't want to suddenly get a gray spot here. So we still have a bit of paint left, and we really want to try to achieve the maximum, the greatest possible defect correction without repainting the door area. And here we also increase the speed a bit. I have the light positioned below again so that I can see through the polish whether good scratch reduction is already taking place. And here we simply go over it a second and third time. Now, I am really only going along the path. Pay attention to this again. The temperature builds up relatively quickly and cannot significantly decrease again because you keep going over it with the pad. So really pay attention. We don't want everything to start boiling completely here. Definitely keep an eye on that. So, as you can see, this is really a step-by-step approach. Actually, you could also put in the title of the video, "Buy a paint thickness gauge, it will save your life." Now let's take another look here at point 92. Yes, it goes quickly here with microfiber. But, okay, look. The scratch is gone. 28, 92, 94, 95, 99. 94, 95. We are now at 90. Just the limit, and the scratch is gone. But we are really at the absolute maximum. So I would maybe go down by 2 or 3 efforts here, and that's why you can see that the paint thickness gauge is essential in this regard. So, very, very important. Finish pad, finish polish. This is the green pad from this product line, and I also have the ADBL Perfect Finish included here. And now we go over it very gently again. It is important to ensure that you do not press the pad completely flat. Previously, you were in the absolute super heavy cut range where you applied a lot of pressure. Now, it is really about completely reducing the pressure and letting it glide. If you press an ultra finish pad firmly onto the paint surface, you will end up with very fine, light scratches. I will also show this again later in a separate video, but here, just let it glide over to simply remove these light polishing marks. And you can also see here, the polish dried relatively quickly in some areas because the paint was still very, very warm from the cutting process. But just a note for you here, so you are fully informed, especially regarding the finish. So, if we take a look at this here, we have the area with the really deep scratch, we have the transition, and it all fades away into nothing. Here you can see the other deep scratch, or the deep spot, and it has turned out very, very nice. We can now do another finish pass, but for now it was mainly about this indentation from 2001, and it has come out really nicely. So you see, it takes strong measures, and we have carefully touched on this. And it's also important to measure again. But I believe the difference is definitely great. And we were really right on the edge, I have to say. I actually didn't want to record this completely with her again, but I thought you definitely want to see 100% how it looks in the end. How much have we removed from the scratch area in total? That's why we're going to speed up the footage in the area that we haven't polished at all yet. Now let's take a look at how much paint we've already removed here. Let's measure it quickly. We were somewhere around 94 in that direction, so I noticed there was still some space, and that's why I went over it again with the second round. There was still enough so-called paint left to give it another try here. I really wanted to see how far I could go. However, I definitely wanted to avoid having to do any touch-ups. But I went over the spot again, this time at double speed, and then we will measure again right afterwards. And as you can see, a bit of paint has come off, especially in this area. A quick polish, and then it was really the moment for me to say, now you definitely need to measure. We reached 92, 93. Again, 93 was very, very consistent here, and also 104 further up. Then, where the paint had not been treated as much, it was also 94. So that was really the limit. So 90 was the end, and I believe the minimum value was 89 and 2001. So here I have to be very clear, that was really my limit. If we go down to around 87, 88, I will really stop. Therefore, you need to approach it gradually rather than just going at it wildly right away. Of course, you can use the sharpest tool you have here, whether it's a microfiber pad or something else, as well as different machine rotations. But don't just beat it down completely. It can quickly be too late. I think the video showed a lot of things. Start by testing it out, then step by step, begin with the strongest polish, but stay within the foam area. If that's not enough, you might have the option to switch to another machine with a bit more stroke, but you've seen that the one with 9 mm and the appropriate setup, meaning pad and finish polish, works. You can quickly reduce the paint thickness significantly. This definitely works. And here, when dealing with such a scratch, you always have to ask yourself, is it worth the risk? Should you take the full risk or not? Because, when it comes to your own vehicle, if it belongs to you, you certainly don't want to damage your own baby, but you also don't want to polish such a vehicle in a hobby context, part-time, or even full-time. Of course, you can get insurance for that, but you definitely don't want it to happen. And I'm not someone who just goes in with the harshest methods right away. You know that from my instructional videos, because I simply don't want to convey that kind of approach to you. I don't do that in my private life either. When I polish behind the camera now, I never go straight in with the sharpest tools. I approach it just as carefully. You can start at a certain level where you don't need to do a test spot with finish polish and finish pad. Obviously, folks, we've tested them enough here on the vehicle, but we shouldn't go straight in with the most aggressive approach. That's simply what I want to convey to you here. And the next point is that the paint thickness gauge is really important, especially for the process. How quickly are you wearing down the surface here? Then you can decide whether to take the risk or not. And now, 100% of the questions will come under the video. Sebastian, I have this and that car, how much effort can I reduce? And I can't provide specific guidelines for every vehicle, 2001. You definitely need to check out your forms here. If you have an E here, then you should go into a BMW form, an E form. Maybe you know someone. Measure with them, just gather some experience. One cannot assume that a vehicle such as a Golf from the 7th generation has the same paint thickness throughout its entire body, which is also an important tip. Of course, it won't differ by 30 or 40, but there will definitely be differences. The painting process might also be adjusted a bit, or whatever else is needed. So, I would generally advise you with a vehicle like this to start slowly and carefully at around 90 when you reach a value of 100. Here, with such an E, I would be really careful. Especially with this car and everything around 85. So I would stop there. If the scratch hadn't come out at 87 or 88, I would have clearly told you in the video, stop guys, no, I'm not risking it. I don't want to sacrifice the paint. I believe you could take away a lot from this. Heavy cut and then followed by finish, polished in 2 stages here as well, even though we made several passes. But once you find the point, a 2-step polish is all you need, not 3, 5 steps and such nonsense. So here we have cut and finish. Those are the 2 steps we need. And it actually worked well. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below or contact me directly via WhatsApp. And if you have any problems with your vehicle, feel free to send a photo as well. A short voice message would be appreciated, if possible. The faster I can answer this for you. I hope you were able to take away a bit from this. And we were really pushing the limits here, but quite significantly. Until next time, Sebastian. Bye guys.